Right, well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Greater Norwich Growth Board. I'm Sue Holland, and I'm the leader of Broadland District Council and the chair for this year. If I can just take us to the agenda, I should just say also this is being live streamed in case anybody's not clear about that. I nearly omitted that one. Is there any apologies, James?
Yes, Chair, we have apologies from Kay Mason-Billig, and her substitute is Councillor Eagle.
Lovely, thank you very much. Do we have any declarations of interest?
Yes, I just need to declare that I'm a member of Wyndham Baptist Church. It's one of the applicants within item 5. I did declare the interest before the application was submitted to the Infrastructure Delivery Board, so I was removed from all the process for progressing the application to yourself today.
Thank you, Grace. Anybody else? No? And that, can I move us on then to the minutes of the meeting that were held on the 26th of September? The findings on page 4. Is everybody happy with the contents of those minutes? Yes? Those of us who were present. Thank you very much. Okay. So that brings us on then to item 4, which is the project showcase for Wyndham Tennis Club. And I believe that Steve Peat will be leading on that. So we're looking forward to seeing that. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for inviting us here today. So we're going to give a bit of a brief run through of the project that the G&GB kindly funded, give you some photos, show that we actually did deliver it, and also some of the really positive outcomes that we're seeing so far. So my name is Steve Peat. I'm the Leisure Strategic Development Manager for South Norfolk and Broadlands, and this is Simon Spaniel, who is Secretary of Wyndham Tennis Club. And Simon was our contact throughout this project, just so we had one point of contact, and that was really useful and worked really well. So just a bit of background really on Ketts Park and South Norfolk and how we came to be operating out of here. So we agreed a 21-year lease with Wyndham Town Council in 2018. And very much our objective was to try and improve the sport and community facilities at the site, particularly around trying to make the site financially and commercially sustainable. So we had plans around improving and expanding the tennis provision and the clubhouse, which I'm pleased to say we've now done. We wanted to build a new 3G pitch, which we've now done. We wanted to improve the grass pitches there that the football club use. We had an inspection recently and they are significantly improved, so that's also going well. And just generally wanted to improve the footfall to the site and just make it a really good sport and community facility. So that was the plan for Ketts Park. So a bit of wider background to begin with.
Okay, Wyndham Tennis Club has been around for just over 50 years, and in 2003 we moved to Ketts Park under the auspices of Wyndham Town Council. Basically at Ketts Park there were 3 outdoor courts that were built around that time, which over the years probably didn't get quite the maintenance, and by recent times had actually come to the end of their useful lives. The clubhouse was basically a 1986 vintage porter cabin, which was rather dark, dingy and less than welcoming. And when I joined Wyndham Tennis Club, the membership had reduced quite significantly. We have an arrangement with Hingham, so if one of us has courts that are out of order, we go and play at each other's. And in 2018, I played at Wyndham for the first time and was quite shocked at the condition of them. So, so it's been fantastic to be involved with this project.
So the G&GB application was actually made by my predecessor, Mark Heasel, in June 2019. Obviously, we then had COVID, so the project did go on hold, as did everything else. So it's very much a partnership project between South Norfolk Council and Wyndham Tennis Club, which I think is, should really be highlighted. So yes, South Norfolk Council were leading on the delivery of this project, but we worked very much in partnership with the tennis club and took their kind of needs and wants into consideration when going through the project. So the project was really around resurfacing all of the existing 3 courts that existed. We also wanted to add a 4th tennis court, And on that tennis court, we've put some overmarking for netball as well. So it's a bit of a multi-use facility there, where if people aren't playing tennis, that it is able to be used as a netball court as well. And we're seeing some good bookings on that court. Put some new LED floodlights in. And that was essentially the kind of premise of the application, and the GNGB awarded the project 149,932, which actually fully funded the project, which we realise is quite unusual. So thank you very much. As I said, the project was delayed. It then commenced on the 4th of July 2022 and completed in November 2022. And pleased to say, actually came in under budget at 140,000. And just to kind of show some of that partnership working really, and how we work together, we were able to facilitate Wyndham Tennis Club using the courts at Farringham Wells Sports Centre. So we realised that they were going to be displaced while this work was going on, but we were able to offer them another facility where they could keep on playing tennis while the works were done. So that was, I think, really positive for both sides, really.
Okay. One of the things about any sport is the first thing you need is a decent facility to play it on. And so having the new courts really allowed us then to actually look at what else we needed to do to be an effective tennis venue. So we've always said that you need courts, you need a clubhouse, and you need a coach to start with, and then you need a range of activities that people want to do. By having the funding for the courts, it effectively allowed the club to use the monies that we'd accumulated over the previous years to invest in a new clubhouse, which we actually got installed at the start of this year. It's a portable building, but basically, you know, it's clean, it's open, it's airy. People can sit inside and watch their juniors playing tennis, etc., etc. So that's been really, really beneficial to us. We unfortunately lost our coach in 2023, but we're fortunate in getting a new coach in 2024 in January. So, and that's really helped a lot. We've now got full junior programs with over 100 juniors taking part over the course of this year, as well as recently things like rusty rackets and beginners for people who maybe played tennis or maybe fancied playing tennis, and that was also oversubscribed by 50% on the first course. So we're starting to get a lot of activity there. We've expanded the number of social sessions, so we've now got 3 a week plus ladies sessions as well. And it's also allowed us to participate in a range of events. So the LTA run a thing called the Big Tennis Weekend. So all clubs have the opportunity to invite people to have a go at tennis. I was told it wasn't going to be a big deal because it never has been in the past, but with the new courts and the new facilities, we entertained over 90 guests on the afternoon that we held it, which was fantastic. And a number of those have actually signed up for membership, which is even better. We run 3 men's and 1 ladies teams in the summer leagues in Norfolk and Norwich League. And yeah, we've actually still ambitious because although it's been good, there's a lot of things we still want to do. Back at the end of COVID in 2021-22, we were down to around 100 members in total. By 2023, with the new courts, we'd grown that to 140, and in the summer of this year, we'd increased that up to 180 members. So as well as having a growth in membership, we also look at things like court utilisation and the pay and play and things like that. So one of the fortunate things about Ketts Park is it's not just the tennis club that use the courts. If you want to just play tennis on a regular basis, you can have a basic membership. Or if you just want to pay and play on rare occasions, you can pay your £6 an hour and come and play tennis, which makes it very inclusive, which is great. And also, from the Lawn Tennis Association, they want tennis to be not cliquey and more involved. So we're actually in a good position with the LTA for that, who helped us in this area as well by actually running some demand reports. So they said, here are the demographics for the area. Here is where you might find members. Here are the people who like to play tennis. So So we've worked very well in partnership with them as well as South Norfolk. Moving forwards, we keep looking at our demographics, and we've got about twice as many senior men as senior women. So one of the opportunities is to try and run events that will encourage ladies who want to play tennis to come and play tennis. We will be having our 4th Ladies Sunday this weekend. Our coach has started courses for the mothers of juniors, and we also have plans in the new year to start a Wednesday morning session for ladies who want to play tennis. Our junior membership is fantastic, and we're trying to drive adults. And one of the other things that our coach has recently instigated, there's a charity called Bright Ideas, which was founded by former Davis Cup players, and they are looking to get people of a whole range of different abilities and needs out on tennis courts to enjoy themselves. So working with them, we expect next summer to host a number of events for people there. I mean, long term, we'd like our membership really to reflect the sort of society and the place we live in totality. So we're working towards that. And yeah, by driving up membership, obviously it improves the income both for South Norfolk and for ourselves, which will mean that we have the money to fund all of the things that are necessary to maintain and keep both the courts and the clubhouse in fantastic condition. It is competitive. There's lots of tennis clubs in the area, but we'd like to become the venue of choice by offering the biggest range and the best facilities. Really, I think on behalf of Wyndham Tennis Club, for me, it is a huge thank you to the Greater Norwich Growth Board for the full funding, which really has permitted us to rejuvenate our club. So, you know, huge thank you from us and all the people in the club for you know, without this, we probably might not even be in existence. So, thank you very much. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. It's really exciting. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you. Obviously, it's a really good story in terms of the membership numbers, but it's only telling a little bit of the picture, as you alluded to. I just wondered if you had any idea of the numbers in your head for just the raw number of adults that are coming in on the pay-per-play basis.
I'm feeling someone might ask that. I did try and look. It's not as easy as gathering the data. It's one of the issues we actually have through the Club Spark system. What I can say is that it's definitely increasing, and the bookings and the trend and the income is all going in the right direction. In terms of being able to give you specific numbers at the moment, that's something we need to work on. But it's definitely increasing, and actually, that's more of a South Norfolk leisure priority and drive to get that kind of public pay and play. So that's something that we have a plan for as well.
I'll take good as an answer.
Does anybody else have any questions they'd like to ask or comments they'd like to make? No? Well, thank you very much for coming. No, it does look a really exciting project and yet another example of something we can all do well if we do work together, doesn't it? Thank you. Right, so that brings us on then to item 5, which is the draft 5-year infrastructure investment plan for 2025-2030. I believe that's going to be presented by Phil and Tom. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I'm just going to do a quick introduction to the report. There's a lot of information in there. I'm not going to go through it in detail. I'm very happy to pick up any questions, which I then normally direct to Grace. But having done that, then also Tom's going to take you through the dashboard and just update you on the work, which is probably also very insightful and interesting as well. I'm conscious that there's a number of members that are still relatively new to the process in the Greater Norwich programme. So I'm going to draw your attention first of all to I suppose the flow chart or the process chart on page 32 of your papers. What that is describing is the process that we go through on an annual basis in establishing that 5-year programme, which helps inform the decisions that we make. But it also enshrines an annual programme, which is the key spend for this forthcoming year. And I almost feel it's a bit of an egg timer image where you've got a whole load of projects in those categories of transport, green infrastructure, communities, as we've just heard for the tennis club, and education. And they go into a big melting pot of the Greater Norwich Infrastructure Plan, the GNIP. There's always a good acronym in Greater Norwich. But the GNIP is that wish list of all the projects that we think should be there to help us deliver growth in a sustainable way across the Greater Norwich area. And then out of that GNIP, out of that long wish list, comes that 5-year infrastructure investment plan that's before you today. And it's not just about the annual growth programme. There's also, you can see some of the loan funds that we've got and the other funding mechanisms and some of the other delivery mechanisms that we've got and the projects that have been delivered. And as part of that is the annual growth programme. It is the Greater Norwich annual growth programme, and therefore it comes before you for endorsement. But we've always got to recognise that each of the partners has the autonomy of decision making. So again, in that flow chart, today we're at the second purple square shape on that flow process. But after the endorsement of this group, that then goes back to the autonomous councils to make a decision to adopt that programme for themselves before it then can be delivered. So that's the process we're in. It's about endorsing that 5-year infrastructure investment plan and the annual growth programme today before it goes back to the respective partners. In terms of, as I said, I'm not going to go through it in detail, just draw your attention to a couple of things. Firstly, on page 46 is the list of projects that are being put forward for delivery as part of the annual growth programme. Total of circa £4.1 million worth of projects, or worth of funding into those projects, which total in excess of £12 million in its entirety. You can see them there. Again, happy to take any questions on each of those as and when appropriate. The only other thing is to draw your attention to the table on page 43 of the papers. This provides that overarching summary. If you're looking to then cross-reference, well, where's the 4.1 that we're committing this year? Remember that isn't all going to be drawn out of this year or next year. It will be a spread out drawdown. You can see the scale of the work that's been done. I'm trying to put my glasses on. Cumulative expenditure in excess of £65 million. These are big figures. It's worth noting that as we look forward, we recognise that CIL income, due predominantly to nutrient neutrality and other external pressures, has been a bit lower. It's difficult to predict exactly when that will bounce back, but we also know that there is a huge growth agenda nationally, so we would look to see those CIL income figures to peak again in due course. Also, additional reserve. In terms of the cash reserve, the Section 151 officers of all the councils have said we want reserve sufficient to cover the loan repayments required per year. And so that cash reserve then reflects those repayments for the loans as well. There's a useful summary in terms of underneath that table of what each of those figures means. Again, I keep saying it, I'm not going to go through it in detail, but very happy to pick up any questions initially before I hand over to Tom.
Does anybody have any questions on that section? Yes, Mike.
Neutrality on CIL income, which has been significant, and clearly that is a significant part of the income. And clearly, you say in the report that CIL income is going to recover gradually as a consequence of all the measures we're taking around nutrient neutrality, so we can start getting more planning consents. So it's just really, from my own mind, what's the degree of uncertainty over the forecast till receipts? It must be quite hard to forecast for each year going forward exactly how much there will be, given the uncertainty there's been around nutrient neutrality and how over what time frame we're going to really mitigate the impact.
Yeah. So the information in terms of seal receipts is effectively gathered from each of the partner authorities. Each of those partner authorities should, even as part of the local plan and monitoring process, have good information and intelligence speaking to developers about the developers when they're projecting to bring forward their respective sites. So it would be unfair and wrong to say this is just finger in the air stuff. It is based on, I'm pleased to hear it. It is based on intelligence, it is based on those conversations. But as we know, the development sector, there are multiple external factors that can, so I've referenced nutrient neutrality, but we know interest rates, mortgage rates, wars, resources, staffing resources, builders, the labour, absolutely. So, is it accurate? It's as accurate as it can be, and a lot of information goes into it. But yes, there is always a degree of uncertainty.
Yeah, so there's a health warning over it, I guess, to be cautious.
Yes, but I would say that cautiousness is inbuilt into the programme, not least because you'll know, because you've been around in this process enough to know that we don't push the absolute limits of the fund. And also, we don't push the limits of the fund. The team are very good at managing that. And prudent is the right word. Thank you.
Yeah, I just have one question. The NDR that was a 25-year loan, I couldn't find out in here, but when would that be due to be repaid?
So those repayments are being made on an annual basis. In terms of when it would be finalised, I think that loan was drawn down. No, in terms of the final, the final repayment would be
is 2041, I believe, from memory. I believe because it's 2016. So yes, so it's about 2 million a year that comes out of the fund. Yeah,
I was just curious. That was all.
Yeah.
Thank you, Phil. So I'll share my screen and hopefully that's working and up there. So I'm going to be talking you through a dashboard which supports the 5-year plan. What this dashboard does is it takes those 80 pages of financial planning and tries to put them onto 7 slides, which is a fairly ambitious attempt, but I think we've tackled it reasonably well. So what we've got on this first slide is a big table of all the projects which are currently in the growth programme and the projects which are being recommended to you today. And we can use various filters here to explore that information. So if I look at the growth programme year and I select 25-26, the forthcoming financial year, we can see this year's round of recommendations here. And we can filter these if particularly we're interested in what's going on in South Norfolk. We can have a click and press the wrong button and filter that down to see the recommended projects for that section. We can have a look across the whole programme and see what has happened in Norwich City from IF funding, which is a really useful tool to be able to explore stuff. We can go into a little bit more detail with this as we break down. I appreciate there's a lot going on this slide, but we have a map showing the locations of projects. A little graph that shows the different infrastructure themes and the way funding has been broken down across those. We have different statuses and again, the financial years. So if we click on this year, you can see the distribution of projects across Greater Norwich, and you can see it's a really good spread and quite nice, tied to growth areas in Greater Norwich as well, so we can see that. We have a couple of tabs on things like match funding, which I'm going to gloss over because there isn't much to talk about this year, but we have the detail here about loans, which we've discussed already, This shows us how much allocation is available for future. On the SIL forecast tab, this is sort of following on from the conversation that Phil has just had around this. You can see how SIL forecasts are expected to increase over the coming 5 years, and this is where we're going to have money coming in to be able to spend on future projects. We have had a drop due to nutrient neutrality, and that is gradually increasing over the 5-year period, not quite getting up to the level we were at before, but coming towards it. And you can see here the cumulative SIL income by year. My favourite tab is the planned spend. This is the actual finances which are proposed this year. So we have the current financial year, 24-25, and what was allocated then, and we have 25-26, what we are proposing. We then have some future years along the bottom. And within this, we have various different categories of spend. So if I click here, you can see we're proposing a 1 million addition to cash reserve borrowing to make sure that we do have those loan payments available. You have the annual commitments for those borrowing amounts, and you can see them throughout the financial plan for the next 5 years. We have a proposed commitment in future years for education. We're not asking you to commit that this year. That is anticipated. You will probably want to do that, but we will be coming back with projects in the future. This year does not have a education capital programme project in the plan. And then we have our agreed programme, things that are already in there, clearly take several years to deliver, which is why they spread across multiple years. And then we have the proposed programme. That's the projects that are being proposed to you this year in this plan for funding. And then you have a little sliver at the end, which is paying for us to be here today. So then the question is, how much is left? And that's what we can see on this graph. So we have this big line here. This is our cumulative SIL income. At the bottom, we have the total expenditure, which we're forecasting to have had on those years. And then we have the unallocated amount. So this year we have an amount unallocated here, but that reduces quite heavily into the next financial year. And this is where you will have funding available to allocate to projects in future funding rounds or future agenda items. Yeah, that summarises the dashboard, I think. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions?
Well, I'll get it right. It's not a question really. It's just I've seen you present before, Tom, and you know, the way that the data is now presented in a really easily accessible form that we can cut and slice any way we like. Just about any question we want to ask is answered in a click. Is just incredibly impressive. So I just want to say I think it's a really, really good piece of work. I know you've heard that before from others, but I just want to reinforce it. Job well done.
Anybody else want to contribute?
Not a question, but I thought this would be an ideal moment to recognise that the nature of these investments is often a bit cyclical in the way it moves around, and from my authority's perspective, this year is very much the year of one of the furthest parts of Greater Norwich in DIS, and how welcome the contribution is towards my administration's commitment to delivering a new leisure centre there and really opening up Dismere for the public.
Lovely, thank you. Yes, I think we can all be very happy about the wonderful opportunities that this gives, I think, and I do think this dashboard works really well, so it's quite useful, and anybody can go and have a look and see what we're all spending our money on, can't they? So it's a really good thing to do. Can I therefore take us to the recommendation? Are we all happy then to recommend to each district cabinet and their councils the approval of the draft 5-year infrastructure investment plan 2025-30, which includes the proposed 2025-26 annual growth programme? We're all happy with that? Yeah? Put my hand up. Thank you. Lovely. So that brings us then on to item 6, which is a request for funding from the School of Oral Health, and I believe that's Chris Stark who will be leading that.
I will be. Thank you, Chair, and thank you also for accepting the item. The paper, hopefully, and thank you to colleagues for their drafting of the paper. I think covers the subject very well, but I just wanted to make three or four points really to support the paper. Firstly, dental provision. often said, it's very poor in Norfolk. I think that's probably understating it slightly. The Secretary of State himself described it as the Sahara of dental deserts. So we know this is a shortage of dental provision is very significant, with the obviously the health impact on our residents. Secondly, the University of East Anglia UEA has a plan to support the provision of dentists within the region. This is a really important step. It's a complex step. Creating a new school of oral health is not something that can happen overnight. It requires careful planning, working with stakeholders, working with a whole range of local and national partners. But it's essential. The nearest dental training, if you grow up in Norfolk and aspire to be a dentist, your nearest dental schools are London or the Midlands. So it's probably time that we had a facility of this sort within the region. And indeed, there was a debate in the Lords led by a former leader of one of our authorities who was highlighting this just early in the week. So UEA has a plan, but there is a shortfall in capital funding. As I say, it's a complicated project requiring a number of partners to support. It does have significant support, the proposal, from MPs of all parties, local partners from the health sector and without. And it's kind of to that end that we table the item. As we've heard earlier, one of the streams that SIL can support is funding for education. This is absolutely an education project. It delivers trained students, which is the very kind of definition of education. And of course, it will have significant community benefits for our neighbourhoods. And so it's with that spirit that as the county we ask colleagues to support an allocation of 1.5 million from our investment fund, which will plug the shortfall and enable the plan to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. That's lovely. Anybody got any comments to make on that?
Yeah, I really strongly support this. As you say, Chris, we've got a shortage of dentists, in particular NHS dentists in Norfolk. The nearest training facilities are a long way away. And we know that it works. If you train people locally, they do stay in the area, or they're more likely to. There's a propensity to. The example I would give is the medical school. Now, when that was established, and I have a previous life in the NHS, so I know full well there was a shortage of GPs in this area. Lists were getting longer. People were finding it difficult to get registered. And part of the solution to that was the establishment of the medical school at UEA. And that has had a significant impact through the retention of a proportion of graduates, on the availability of medical practitioners, GPs in particular, but others in this area. So we know it works. We know UEA also, it would be good for UEA as well. It would strengthen UEA. It would strengthen the clinical specialties there. It would be an additional offer for them to make. And to be honest, having a dental school is quite prestigious, as it is having a medical school. So it's good for UEA. We want to support UEA. We want UEA to flourish and be successful. I don't think there's anything not to like about this. So as I say, I really strongly support it.
No, I'd echo that absolutely. Speaking as one of a vast horde of former UEA graduates who never intended to stay in Norfolk but never quite managed to get away again afterwards. I could very much speak for the power of UEA retention. And also, it's not just the benefit that comes post-training, it's the immediate benefit that the trainee dentists can deliver within the next couple of years as well. That's a massive plus here. So no, I'm very happy to support this, very happy to commend it.
Thank you. Yes, anybody else like to say anything? Well, I can only echo what everybody else has said, to be honest with you. Absolutely. You know, people come to UEA and stay. I have been shocked over the years about the appalling state of dentistry in Norfolk and how people apparently were actually pulling out their own teeth. I mean, that is just awful, isn't it, to think somebody's got to that point. So this is absolutely something I would support, and I'm very pleased to think that we can do that. So as far as I'm concerned, then, if I can take us to the recommendation then. So are we all happy to accept the request for funding from the School of Oral Health and to recommend that £1.5 million of funding be committed to it from the Infrastructure Investment Fund? Yeah, yes, yeah. Oh, excellent, thank you very much. I do hope that's useful, Chris, and do take that message back. Thank you. Therefore, can I take us on to item 7, which is the Greater Norwich Green Infrastructure Strategy? And I think that's Wendy Brooks and Dominic Watkins. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, I came to the last board meeting to give you an update on the excellent progress we're making on the Greater Norwich Green Infrastructure Strategy. We have now got to a draft stage of the strategy. We've taken that to our steering group and also through the directors board. So I'm very pleased that our consultant Dominic Watkins is here today from CBA, and he's going to take you through that draft now. Thank you.
With the partnership, Green Infrastructure Partnership and Delivery Group to develop a refreshed strategy for the future. So thank you for the opportunity to present the draft strategy. I think you've seen in the paper the sort of the key outline and the principles of the documents that make up the strategy, and really I'll just add a little bit of colour to that, and happy to take any questions at the end. So what is green infrastructure about? Many different definitions, but the National Planning Policy Framework is a good starting point. There's really two messages: that green infrastructure is a network of multifunctional green and blue spaces and other natural features, both in urban and rural areas. It's more than just about public open space, and the key word really there is about multifunctional spaces. And that multifunctionality is what allows green infrastructure to deliver potentially a wide range of benefits for nature, climate and local communities. So that starting point really underpins the strategy and its purpose. So building on the 2007 strategy and work, we've developed a proposed refreshed strategy and the supporting delivery plan, which is based on up-to-date new evidence about green infrastructure in the area, primarily to support the new Greater Norwich local plan, and obviously through that the infrastructure delivery plan. So it sets out a vision and a strategic approach to enhancing and expanding green infrastructure network in the area over about the next 10 to 15 years, and then focuses on priorities for action in the next 5. The approach has been shaped by feedback from a range of stakeholders through a couple of workshops during the summer, and we managed to involve about 35 organisations across both public, private and third sectors in the area. And that approach has helped then shape that feedback has then helped shape the approach to the strategy. So fundamentally, it provides a framework, it's a very high-level framework for guiding infrastructure delivery by the Green Infrastructure Partnership. So it promotes a vision for the partnership of working together to secure opportunities for nature recovery and enhance access to nature through development of green infrastructure that can help contribute to tackling climate and ecological challenges, and also supporting vibrant, healthy, inclusive and growing communities.
The approach that we've taken over the course of the project has been based on two overlapping concepts of active places and natural places. And these two concepts and approach have come together to create multifunctional green infrastructure network for people, places and nature. So very much an integrative concept. And within that approach, we've then developed a strategy that has a number of different elements in terms of information and documents. So just in summary, the main strategy document itself sets out the vision, objectives and principles, more on that in a moment. That's then supported by a strategic delivery plan document for the next 5 years. Again, a little bit more on that in a moment. And supporting that is an online story map. And this is basically a way of providing a public accessible tool, if you like, to access the documents and information to inform decision making, and also an interactive mapping tool to actually help explore the different green infrastructure assets and different proposals within the area. And that then has links to the supporting evidence. So the vision promoted by the strategy is about Greater Norwich in the future having a high quality, nature-rich and resilient green infrastructure network connecting green spaces in the countryside in and around the city of Norwich, surrounding towns and villages. And these nature-based benefits of the network are to be widely valued by local communities, business and visitors. So the strategy identifies 6 objectives to help achieve this vision. And these reflect the priorities that came out of the stakeholder engagement exercise. Objective 1 is about helping more people in Greater Norwich to experience and connect with nature and be physically active. And this has strong links into the physical activity and sports strategy work. The second objective is about harnessing potential of productive landscapes to connect people with food growing and climate change action. The third objective is about promoting the role of good green infrastructure design in contributing to distinctive character of places within Greater Norwich. So both the design of green infrastructure itself, but also in contributing to placemaking through development. The fourth objective about nature recovery has strong links to the forthcoming local nature recovery strategy for Norfolk. And that's about supporting initiatives for enhancing, expanding and protecting habitats and wildlife sites across Greater Norwich. The urban greening objective number 5 is about strengthening the resilience, sustainability and biodiversity value of urban environments, both in Norwich and other urban areas across the area. And lastly, also importantly, objective 6 is about harnessing the potential of blue-green infrastructure, so water, as a key element of the green infrastructure network in the way that water is managed, both in terms of supply, quantity, flood risk, etc., and looking at more nature-based solutions. So this diagram within the strategy sets out or helps illustrate a little bit about what that strategy and that long-term vision could look like. And it really brings together 2 components. It brings together this network of what are called strategic green infrastructure corridors, which help connect people, places and nature across Greater Norwich. And those strategic corridors are very much focuses and priorities for, or the focus of priorities for investment that are also guided by the geography of growth that's proposed in the new local plan. And there's more detailed maps within the strategy that then focus in a bit more in the Norwich urban area and the fringes. So in the context of that, the sort of key part of the strategy really is then identifying how and what can be delivered and what it proposes. So a very important message from the strategy that's emerged from the work has been that it can only be achieved through the combined efforts of partners and stakeholders across Greater Norwich working together to deliver the shared vision for green infrastructure. And we would look to do this through 6 guiding principles. For example, particularly important ones about the principle of targeting green infrastructure in areas with the greatest need and potential in terms of investment, and adopting a collaborative approach that will then continue with the approach that's been used to develop the strategy, but also through its implementation. The message there really about partnership approach. So the supporting delivery plan looks to focus work over the next 5 years in 2 key areas of work. The first one is a delivery programme around active places, and this focuses on encouraging projects for delivering green infrastructure that provides 3 key areas really of enhanced access to nature, promoting active travel and supporting adoption of healthy lifestyles. And alongside that is the second delivery programme and work area for natural places is about focusing on encouraging projects for new and enhanced green infrastructure that will support a network of bigger, better and more joined up habitats, provide nature-based solutions and protect valuable wildlife sites. What the plan does, although it doesn't identify specific projects, it provides strategic initiatives for protecting, enhancing and expanding the green infrastructure network, which are referred to as strategic initiatives. And out of those work programmes, projects can then be developed to be brought forward for funding. So on this plan, there's a lot of information on there, but there's over 25, 26, 27, I think, strategic initiatives that are proposed in the plan, reflecting those two area work programmes and the objectives. And they range from corridor type projects, for example, the Yare Valley Parkway within Norwich, the Waveney Valley Corridor and the Green Loop projects, which is about continuing to develop, in some cases, green infrastructure corridors that exist, but to enhance those, to connect them better, to get the benefits, through to country park, new and expanded country parks in and around the Norwich urban fringes, in a number of strategic locations, through to linking through to the nature recovery agenda in terms of different opportunity zones for that and how that then links through to supporting the local nature recovery strategy. And there's also a range of other initiatives in there that are more dispersed and thematic in their nature. And the idea of those as being multifunctional initiatives is to seek to provide and maximise and optimise the gains and the benefits from investing in green infrastructure. So in terms of implementation, the next steps, parts of the plan pull out various proposals, recommendations, and the key ones really about raising awareness of the new strategy in terms of its key messages, so a communications plan, starting to develop work on a pipeline of projects to feed into things like the infrastructure delivery plan, which are projects that then fit with these proposed strategic initiatives, exploring opportunities for funding, external funding to support the delivery of the projects, and importantly monitoring the process, and again monitoring frameworks outlined within the strategy. So in summary, when you boil all that down, the strategy provides a strategic framework and to help decision making, to help in terms of allocation of resources, and also setting some priorities for the next 5 years in terms of work areas. And that collectively comes through to supporting the partnerships 4 key outcomes of the strategy that is desired around healthier, happier and more active people, nature-rich places, climate-resilient places and prosperous communities. Hopefully that's a helpful summary, but happy to take any questions.
No, that's very useful, thank you. I think you pretty much sum it up at the end, don't you? And I actually think the whole meeting today really has demonstrated how having a healthy and active lifestyle in a really green economy is a good thing, and that's how we keep our communities happy and how we make things work together. I think also something, when we talk about climate, we are actually contributing to helping to ameliorate some of those issues to do with climate emergency, which people don't realise have got to be global. So even if it's our very small part of that, we are doing a part of that, and I think that's really important. So thank you. Does anybody else have any comments they'd like to make? Well, thank you very much then. I think that looks absolutely stunning, so we should be able to take those things forward. Thank you. We do adopt that, don't we? Do you want me to read the recommendations, James? This is the boring bit, isn't it? Right, can I recommend then the Greater Norwich Growth Board recommended to note and provide comment on the details of the draft Greater Norwich Green Infrastructure Strategy to enable CBA to progress with developing the final outputs of the strategy and delivery plan. Are we all happy to accept that recommendation? Yes? Lovely. Thank you very much indeed. Oh, you've got some more work to do now. Well, I think that brings us to the end of the meeting. So I will therefore say this meeting is now closed at whatever the time is. I can't see that clock, 3:25. Thank you very much indeed for coming.